Fantasy Football 2017 NFL Week 7 Cheat Sheet. Need some quick tips to assemble your fantasy lineup for Week 7? This is the third round of bye weeks in the NFL, so we've combed the far reaches of the internet and culled only the choicest fantasy tips and advice for your quick consumption. Below you'll find easily digestible nuggets from multiple fantasy experts, addressing some of the critical situations fantasy owners will face from week to week. Dig in and dominate. Subscribe to the Fantasy Football Beat on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. Injury decisions. Stefon Diggs, WR, Vikings. Diggs dealt with this on-again, off-again injury status in 2016, and now his groin is ailing again. While he technically played in Week 6, he was a non-factor. Having not practiced this week, Diggs likely is relegated to the bench again. Ezekiel Elliott, RB, Cowboys. Elliott owners don't need to fret about Week 7, the Dallas tailback will play. His looming suspension could be reduced, so stay tuned. Leonard Fournette, RB, Jaguars. Fournette tweaked an ankle late in Jacksonville's loss to the Los Angeles Rams in Week 6, though he was cleared to return to the game afterward. While he did not practice Wednesday or Thursday, the expectation is he'll be able to go when the Jaguars visit Indianapolis. The Colts struggle to contain opposing running backs, so owners will want to monitor Fournette's status as game time approaches. If you are worried about Fournette sitting out, and need to consider another option, one is his backup, Chris Ivory. Ivory had 9 receptions for 74 yards and a touchdown in Week 6. He'd be a strong play in place of Fournette. Fantasy Football Scout, so much is riding on Brett Hundley's arm. Melvin Gordon, RB, Chargers. San Diego typically reduces Gordon's workload at practice throughout the week, so there's no reason to be concerned with his limited status, even if he does have an ailing shoulder. Rob Kelly, RB, Redskins. He was at practice for Washington on Thursday as he works his way back from an ankle injury. Kelly's had an extra week off, so he should be on the field when the Redskins face off against the Philadelphia Eagles in a huge divisional Monday Night Football matchup. Andrew Luck, QB, Colts. Well, Luck owners have to hate reports coming out that he may miss the entire season. Hopefully you grabbed some other options in the draft, or slyly picked up Deshaun Watson. Long story short, Luck is unlikely to make a fantasy impact in 2017. Devante Parker, WR, Dolphins. Parker missed Week 6 with an ankle injury, but is reportedly feeling better despite not practicing on Wednesday and Thursday. If Parker is capable of playing, it's an appealing matchup against the Jets, but as a Parker owner myself, I'm leaning toward waiting another week. Bilal Powell, RB, Jets. As a Powell owner, there was some concern that Elijah McGuire might do well enough in Week 6 to push New York's backfield into a committee approach. That didn't happen, so Powell owners can breathe a sigh of relief. Powell missed Week 6 with a calf injury but was a full participant in practice Thursday. He's worth an RB2 or flex play. Emmanuel Sanders, WR, Broncos. Denver will be without the wide receiver, ankle, for Week 7. Jameis Winston, QB, Buccaneers. Winston, shoulder, reportedly will take all the first-team reps Friday. Winston owners may not have much of a choice, but the matchup against the Bills on the road is going to be a difficult test. Fringe starters. Nelson Agholor, WR, Eagles. Agholor has been a most pleasant surprise for Philadelphia, and there's at least one pundit who predicted the possibility during the preseason. Some might argue he's no longer a fringe player and more deserving of being a fantasy regular. Perhaps, but while Agholor has 55 yards or more in 4 of his first 6 games, his scoring is reliant on big plays and touchdowns. He has found the end zone 4 times, only 6 WRs have more. Agholor and the Eagles face the Redskins for the second time this season. He had 6 catches for 86 yards and a TD on 8 targets in the first meeting. Washington will likely be without Josh Norman, but could get some others back in the secondary. Despite Agler's success, his ownership rate has been low. Even now, he's available in 48% of ESPN leagues. Why should you temper expectations? Well, Agler is third on the Eagles in targets with 30, well behind Zach Ertz, 53, and Alshon Jeffrey, 48, and only 5 more than Torrey Smith. That's not much of a criticism, but certainly something to keep in mind. That said, there's no reason to depart Agler's wild ride in Week 7. Heck, even a computer is all in on the Philadelphia wideout. Fantasy football start, sit for Week 7, don't be afraid to trust Blake Bortles this week. C.J. Anderson, RB, Broncos. Anderson owners are probably frustrated after a home matchup in Week 6 saw him tally just 17 yards on 6 carries versus a New York Giants defense that has struggled against the run. It marked the second time in 3 weeks Denver's running back had less than 50 yards from scrimmage. Here's the good news in Week 7, a date with the San Diego Chargers, which comes in ranked dead last against the run. Anderson finished with 81 yards versus the Chargers in Week 1. While there's reason for concern, it's too enticing of a matchup to pass on. Put your worries off for at least one more week. Joe Mixon, RB, Bengals. In recent weeks, Cincinnati has been giving Mixon 15 to 20 plus touches, and his last game before the team's bye in Week 6 saw him score his first touchdown. There's growing optimism that the rookie tailback is going to blossom as the Bengals return from their bye week. A deeper look at the club since Bill Lazor took over as offensive coordinator illustrates Mixon's larger involvement, more reason for optimism going forward. Mixon owners should start to be rewarded for their patience, so get him in the lineup. Lottery tickets that could pay off. Orleans Darkwa, RB, Giants. There's little to like about New York's offense, but let's face it, you can never have too many tailbacks if you have the roster space. Darkwa ran for 69 yards in Week 5 on only 8 carries, but that came against a porous Chargers run defense. But after his 117-yard performance against the vaunted Denver defense, despite a shaky offensive line, Darkwa has to be a consideration. He's surprisingly still widely available, owned in just 32% of ESPN leagues. It's not a terrific matchup for Darkwa as the Giants square off against the Seahawks, but opposing running backs have had success versus Seattle this season. If you're in a bind, you could certainly do worse than trotting out Darkwa. Not all the pundits are believers, however. Lions offense. Okay, so here's the first thing you should know, Detroit is on its bye week. However, wide receiver Golden Tate exited Week 6 with a shoulder injury that will keep him out a few weeks. Marvin Jones will become a starter and rookie Kenny Golladay likely will become the number 2 when Detroit return to action against Pittsburgh on October 29. Golladay, however, is still working his way back from a hamstring injury. DJ Jones ended up with 9 targets in Week 6 and could be a sleeper. If you have a spot on your roster, why not pick him up? Jones is available in all leagues. Now, another potential scenario to consider is Theo Riddick seeing an uptick in the passing game while Tate's out. Riddick is available in 32% of ESPN leagues. Food for thought when looking toward Week 8 when 6 teams will be on a bye. Read more. Fantasy Football Scout, so much is riding on Brett Hundley's arm. Alvin Kamara could be Kareem Hunt good. Just wait. Week 7 start, sit advice. 5 fantasy football moves you need to make for Week 7. No one knows when Andrew Luck is returning. It should be